This is what normally happens in this part of the game, Paper Mario the Origami King. When you're at Autumn Mountain, you go into this boat. You go down the river, you end up at the Eddy River Rapids, you play this minigame, and when you're done the Eddy River Rapids minigame, normally, you end up at Shogun Studios. But, what if I told you that there is a big void between the Eddy River Rapids minigame and Shogun Studios? Let me explain before we take a closer look at this area. If you edit Mario's vertical position, nothing happens. Until Mario jumps, that is. We can lock Mario's vertical position up in the air as we ride along on the boat. You can still steer the boat, and the boat still takes damage if you collide with something, but you don't get any hearts and you don't get any coins if you pass over them, because Mario himself has to actually touch these for it to count that you've collected them. As I was going down the river like this, with Mario floating in the air, towards the end I noticed something strange. Remember how Olivia normally has dialogue at certain parts along the river? They talk about what a tight squeeze this is near the beginning, or they mention the falling rocks, or they talk about the giant whirlpool. Well, on this whole trip with Mario in the air, Olivia wasn't saying anything. Bobby wasn't saying anything. The entire boat ride was silent while Mario was in the air. And remember how at the end of the river some dialogue is triggered where the toad says if you've nabbed all of the coins or not? That dialogue also didn't pop up. And the boat just kept going. I was wondering how far this boat would go. All of a sudden we started to approach a dark area. I thought that a loading zone might be here that would take us to Shogun Studios. But we just kept approaching the dark area. I was wondering if we would fall off the water here as if this was like the edge of the world. Everything was all black all around us. We passed a shadow, and then we entered a brighter area where we could see the characters under better light. And everything just seemed empty. I could still steer the boat, and there didn't seem to be any rocks here that you could collide with. And the water and the darkness just seemed to go on forever. I could just imagine Olivia getting scared here and going, "Where are we, Bobby? This doesn't look like Shogun Studios." I wanted to try steering the boat to see if there were any collisions around. If you steer all the way up, the boat does hit something invisible, and then it starts to sink. And nobody on board really seems to worry about it. You might have noticed that the boat was also going backwards as it was falling, and since the boat is going backwards, the camera started following the boat, and also moving backwards. And it did this for a while. I was wondering how far that the camera would follow the boat going backwards. Would the camera follow the boat all the way back up the river? Well, what ended up happening was, since the boat doesn't go back up vertically, the camera doesn't follow the boat up vertically, and instead, the camera just passes by the slope instead of following up the slope, so we see nothing again. So let's go back to this dark area and see what happens if we keep continuing on straight. Will the blue streamer or this area ever end? The blue streamer normally goes from Autumn Mountain all the way down to Shogun Studios, so the streamer should keep going until we reach Shogun Studios and not just suddenly end, right? Well, if we keep going down, we can see that the blue streamer just ends at a certain point. And then the boat can't go much further from here. From here, the boat also ends up falling and sinking. If Mario's on the boat, he can throw confetti, which is why you can see the confetti bag flashing, and you can also press X to have Olivia talk. Something that you could do to get out of this mess if you ever end up getting stuck here sometime is you actually can still press the B button to sink the boat. I guess it isn't really sinking the boat because you're already underwater, but you end up destroying the boat, and when the boat is destroyed, it's game over. Last week, I shared a few videos showing what happens if we edit gravity in Paper Mario the Origami King. Normally, if you edit Mario's vertical position while a text box is open, Mario doesn't fall back down until the text box closes. Another similar interesting observation is that if Mario's vertical position is very high, we can quite literally skip over certain parts of the game. There are some parts of the game, like this scene here near Peach's castle, where you have to save this toad, which normally you're not able to skip this part, but if you get enough vertical height, you can pass over this area without triggering the dialogue that stops you from returning. So if you can avoid this dialogue from the toad that normally triggers at the end of the Eddy River minigame, then you can go into a dark void, and some strange things can happen here. Bobby doesn't seem to mind it much, and it doesn't really seem to bother Olivia either. If you're interested in secrets like this in games and hacking games to see what happens, then you might be interested in my other videos. Also, a huge thank you to Dutfish, who became my first ever Patreon supporter, and thank you to all of you for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you all have a lovely day, and take care, everybody.